Hi guys, this is not a video I've been looking forward to making, but the depression bit in the title, we'll get to that. That's the bit I haven't been looking forward to making, that video. And I've been thinking and thinking about how to talk about this, when to share it, what to do with it. I think it needs to get out there. I think I need to talk about it. I think loads of people have been struggling in this COVID-19 world, and we should talk, we should share, and maybe this will help someone out there. Maybe. Maybe it's just me being narcissistic. Maybe it's, I don't know, but I think I need to share it because there's also some close friends and people have come around here to fight me, and comments on the internet saying, are you okay? And the answer is no and yes. But before we do, the reason why I'm putting this up now on the 14th of August 2020 is because today is the 6th year anniversary of Winter's SEO, which is amazing. It changed my life. It's changed my life incredibly, as you'll see at the end of the video. And every year when it's tradition that I do a yearly vlog, not weekly or monthly vlog, but a yearly vlog about the channel and where we are and what we've done. And so 6 years in today, thank you. Thank you so much for those of you who started on the journey with me. Thank you very much for those who've joined us recently. Extra special thank you and love and hugs to those of you who've chosen to join us in the deployment zone or support me on Patreon. And that's DZTV. Just go to Patreon and Google DZTV. So thank you so much. 6 years. It's been an amazing ride. From someone who just put videos up on the internet and there wasn't much content back then, bearable content, to now there is a huge variety of awesome content out there. I mean, Play on Tabletop. If you guys haven't seen Play on Tabletop, they're 40k in 40 minutes. I highly recommend that you go check it out. Those guys are taking production values to a whole other level, and it's just awesome content. So I should link it below because they definitely deserve your sub, and I'd love to see those guys go professional and start making, because the production values are over the top, so it must take them ages to edit it and ages to do it. So I'd love to see them go full time and put out more and more content for us all to enjoy. Tabletop Tactics, of course, moved to Bath. So Lawrence has now got his studio up and running, and he's got some full-time people working for him there, which is awesome. And Striking Scorpion still going strong. The original, the OG. So now there are multiple, from when there wasn't anyone doing it except mini wargaming, and now they have their bunker, so they're going strong. And the hotel, I'd love to go and visit mini wargaming and staying in the bunker. Above the bunker, you can hire rooms. So you go to mini wargaming, you're in Canada near the Niagara Falls. I think they're in Welland. Brilliant. The wife will love that. Stay in the rooms upstairs. Brilliant. And then play with your mates and then go and film down. Just their setup is so, I'm so envious of them. So they're doing well. So from 6 years ago, where only mini wargaming were really making enough living to do this for a living, there's now a few people doing it for a living, which is a credit to those content producers. There's others out there that Mikey from Hellstorm. He's doing it full time now. God bless you, Mikey. One of the nicest people on the planet. So there's quite a few people out there, and some I've missed, that are doing it full time. There are the bigger producers who don't do battle reports but do lore videos, such as Luton. There's the commentary people like Chapter Master Valeric, and who's the other guy I watched, Kirioth, who are doing whacking out some content there. Too many people to mention now. 6 years ago, not so much. So quite a few people doing this full time, making a real go of it. And it's a credit to them for the work they put in, and a credit to the community now for supporting them. So thank you everyone who supports them. More importantly, I think it's a credit to modern technology and the will of the Omnissiah, because before the age of smartphones, this wouldn't happen. I remember when I started playing 40k back in the 80s, there was a Cold War and there was a wall dividing Europe in two, and there was Judge Dredd, and there was bright pink socks and fluorescent yellow t-shirts and flocks of seagulls and Madonna and Duran Duran. And there wasn't any internet back then. There was a Sega Mega Drive or an N64, but there wasn't much else apart from that. And if you didn't know someone, you didn't play 40k. So we've come a long way from that. For example, in the DZTV Discord community, there are 700 members in our community now. 300 of them are patrons. To get a link to the Discord, you need to be in DZTV, because we don't want it swamped by people who aren't supporters of us. We want it to be a special place for those people who support us, and you can get in it for free. Liam links everything and all the videos. If you're a member of DZTV, that unlocks just the general threads. And if you're a patron as well, you get the bonus, which is all the other threads get unlocked as well. A bit like a gold and silver membership. You can just pay for the videos if you want, or you can pay for the videos and the patrons and the whole Discord community thing if you want. But actually, there's at least 78 people that I know of who don't even support deploymentzone.tv. They're just in the patron and the Discord because they don't have any more time. Lawyers and doctors and McDonald's workers and Tesco's workers who don't have enough time to watch any more battle reports because they've got a busy life, but they're still engaging in the community through the patron thing. So thank you to all of those. And that's just an example of how much it's gone from where it was to where it was now, is now. I mean, it's incredible to think where we've come, and it's incredible to think where Winter's SEO, where this channel has come. I wouldn't have thought it got here. And in all this time, it started off Winter's SEO. I just wanted to put my battle reports out and show the community what my close support friends were doing. And if you go back and watch the first ones, you'll notice that most of the faces stay the same for the first year. Actually, I didn't show any faces back then. Didn't even show mine. Didn't even show dice rolling at the start. Just summaries, just 20, 30, 40 minute summary videos. Strike and Scorpion did it that way as well. Geeks Wargaming did it that way as well. A lot of people did summary videos, but those are kind of gone by the wayside. A lot of people expect to see the raw. And also, back then, YouTube was more of a shorter form content thing. Now, people don't mind watching an hour and a half or listening to an hour and a half while they're painting away of YouTube content, be it a lore video or a battle report or something like that. But back then, you could see on the algorithm they just turn off after 10 minutes. But I think Joe Rogan's got a lot to do with that. I mean, I listen to some of Joe Rogan's stuff, and while I'm modelling, and other podcasts and other producers who will just prattle on for 3 hours. And that certainly wasn't a thing at the start of YouTube, but it is a thing now. And there's a massive audience for it. There's a massive audience from me and from you guys to enjoy longer form. So the shorter form thing stopped. And I started showing dice rolling. I started bringing more and more people in. And then I didn't monetize it for the first 2 years either. And I stayed away from Patreon and everything. But it eventually snowballed so big that I thought, can I do this? First up, can it pay for itself? So I monetized and Patreon, and we tried the YouTube. YouTube used to have a paid for service channel thing, but they haven't got that anymore. So we tried a few things. We tried some old sponsors. I say me. I tried all these things. It's a we now, you see. It's a we now. Winters is a we. DZTV is a we. I tried lots of different things, and lots of different things fell through. But the main channel, Winters SEO, continued to grow because of your guys' support. And a couple of years ago, we launched deploymentzone.tv. And the idea was, like the tabletop tactics formula, the mini wargaming formula, like the Strike and Scorpions formula, like people like that who produce battle reports. The idea is this hobby is a niche hobby. It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the Eisenhorn TV series and a AAA video game title is around the corner, I'm sure. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's a niche. At the moment, it's still a niche-ish hobby. It's getting bigger. And watching 40k on the internet is a niche within a niche, and watching 40k battle reports on the internet is a niche within a niche within a niche. So it's very hard to monetize creative content and to do this full time, to make a living out of it. So originally the idea was just to try and pay for the hobby, and then I managed to do that. And then how far can this go? Can we do this full time? Wouldn't it be gorgeous if I did this full time? So that was what DZ TV is for. And new sponsor, Element Games came along after War Game shut down. So War Game shut down, we jumped onto Element, and Element have been so supportive and so helpful. One of the things that happened between the last video, 5 years of Winter's SEO to 6 years of SEO, is we had the first DZ TV Open Day up at Element Games in Manchester, and 100 people in the hall. And we played some games and we talked 40k and we got very drunk, and it was just a laid back way for the community to get together, and 20, 30 people in that hall didn't bother fighting the second game. They just wanted to hang out. And that was fantastic. That was very cathartic, it was a good hobby space, a good place to be in. And if it wasn't for COVID-19, we'd have had the other one already, as well as the Hendrick campaign, which is both of them been put on hold. The next DZ TV Open Day is scheduled in for November, October, I don't know when, end of the year. So hopefully that'll happen. Who knows? Nurgle is still stroking the planet with his feathery touch. And so that happened. Where was I? So it's growing. Where was I? So community is growing, deployment zone growing, things changing, moving forward. Liam's support on the tech end of things has been astronomical. And while this was going on, let's talk about my clinical depression. While all this was going on, my work, it's all work related, it's nothing personal. My personal life is fantastic. My wife is incredibly supportive, and my hobby life, the 40k side of the world, is really, really supportive and helpful. And actually being a 40k content producer allowed me to do a couple of things. One, it meant that I was regularly going to a space where religion and politics and real world and money and regularly going to this hobby room here and playing 40k and enjoying myself, where the outside world couldn't get in, and also where this didn't spill out into the outside world. It was a safe space, it was an island, it was a life raft that I was clinging to in a storm. And because of content producing, rather than just doing it with 2 or 3 people or down at a club, I got to meet lots of different people, and still meet lots of different people with lots of different armies, and get to interact with lots of different people on the interwebs. So as far as feeding my soul, scratching the hobby itch, and a wholesome, healthy experience, the Winter's SEO has been, and DZTV has been awesome, and the Open Day and stuff. But at work, there was a change in management at my day. I've been working as of August 2021, so this month when this video goes live, I would have been working in the same factory in Swindon for 21 years. So I've done my time. I've been working shifts, days and nights in a factory. And I started off as a temp worker, and I made my way up to the lowest type of line manager in charge of a couple of small teams of people. Pretty hands-on stuff, bit by bit by bit. 20 plus years of that. And shift work is inherently stressful anyway. It's not very healthy for you. But on top of that, because I was a line manager, I was exposed to an amount of pressure from the top, and also pressure from underneath, from the people I was responsible for, their health and well-being. I had targets to meet from this way, and demands and stuff from that way, working shifts. So it's inherently stressful, but manageable. And I had been managing it well and indeed I met my wife at my work, and she worked in a different department, but on the same shift pattern. I never went out with or had a date or anything with anyone at that work over the whole 21 years. Never at all, until I met my wife. I want to say 7 years ago. Just one person, she just caught my eye. And the rest is history. She's the one who told me to, hey, you're watching a lot, back in the day, back before Winter's SEO started, hey, you're watching a lot of videos on the internet. Yes. What are they? Battle reports. Oh, you play that game with your friends. Yes. Why don't you film some and put them on the internet too? It was her fault. I didn't know what I was doing. She set up Winter's SEO. The reason why it's Winter's SEO, Winter's Swindon Elite Ops, is because that was the gamer tag that all of our group of friends were using at the time. So there's a Grey Knight Swindon Elite Ops, there's a Dark Angel Swindon Elite Ops, bet you can't tell what they play, as well as Fury SEO and Darth Maul SEO, and there's a bunch of SEOs. And it's not search and engine optimization, which I found out a number of years later. So yeah, she filmed it, and I filmed it and gave it to her and said, there you go, I filmed one, and she put it together and put it on the internet after setting up Winter's SEO YouTube channel. Did it all for me, and then showed me how. So it's a blessing for everyone that I found her at this place, and I was managing my stress well. Everyone's stressed, right? Everyone has problems, everyone has worries, everyone has kids and work and death and divorce, and life is hard, and your health can go up, your health can go down, and particularly in this COVID-19 landscape, there's so many people out there getting put out of work or can't see relatives. I have a friend who couldn't see their mother when she died in hospital, not of COVID-19, but couldn't go to see her because they weren't allowed in to visit. Tragic stuff. So we've all got our stresses. But before this, about 3 years ago, there were some changes at work. I'm not going to go into the whole details, but there were some changes at work, which meant that the stress that I was exposed to at work was much greater than it was before. And I soldiered on. I kept going. I'd been in that job 18 years, 17, 18 years. And the shift work, allowed me time to produce content for YouTube, for you guys. If I was working in 9 to 5, there would have been less content. So it really, really sucked and got worse. But the benefit was, the plus side was much greater. So I kept going. But also, I'm not a quitter. Man up, keep pressuring. When the stress gets stressful, you keep, Winston Churchill quote, isn't it? When you're going through hell, keep going. Or Andy Dufresne, when he's crawling through the tunnel at the end of the Shawshank Redemption. Sometimes you just got to crawl through 20 miles of shit to get to your freedom, to get to the light, literal and figurative light at the end of the tunnel. So I kept going. And around last year, my physical health about 3 years ago suffered a little bit. I got sciatica, I got a skin condition. I also got a central vein occlusion in my right eye, which developed into a macular edema, which I got treated for and helped reduce the macular edema, but I still take eye drops for every single day, and I've gone partially blind in my right eye, which makes painting and assembling models a pain in the ass. So when Den of Imagination came along and helped paint for me, it's absolutely glorious. And when people like Rob Not Steve come up and decide that they're going to paint the 13th Militarum for me, or the End of All Things, I'm so eternally grateful for these guys. And Rob Not Steve is currently working on the 13th Militarum. And Monkey did a chunk of the Primaris stuff from the Indomitus box for me for the 13th, and I just need to base them and rough them up a bit. I can do washes. I can do dry brushing, and it's not that bad. I can still drive. Tyranids are fine because they're all washes. But any fine detail, yeah. So that happened, and that was because of stress migraines, which sometimes laid me low for a day or so. and basically burst veins. So that happened. And then there were some stomach complaints and some other things. So there was some clear physiological signs that the stress and anxiety was getting to me. And then something happened last year, and I didn't know what was happening to me at the time. And I just kept going. Memory started to fade. I now know a lot about depression. I now know a lot about clinical depression. Let's just say, skip to the end. At the end of April this year, and how to explain? Because it's work and I don't want to blame anyone. I don't want to point the fingers at anyone. Work sucks. It's COVID-19 and we were in the middle of a pandemic. Things at work. Let's just say that it got to a point one of the signs of depression is sometimes you can't speak. I think there's a 10-point graph thing, diagnostic tool that doctors use. And they ask you a bunch of questions. And if you answer one way or the other on these bunch of questions, I think if you hit 5 of the markers, you're diagnosed with depression. I hit 9 out of 10. The first GP that signed me off, at the end of April, after leaving work after a night shift, the next day I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move for 24 hours. I didn't move. Middle of the pandemic. And I rang a doctor and said, I'm just so stressed. So much anxiety. Please sign me off. And he signed me off for 2 weeks, and it was so bad that my hands were shaking and I couldn't cut and glue miniatures together. And that shaking, that level of adrenaline, I'd just been living off of that for about 6 months. And then after 2 weeks, I rang up again because there was an incident in the middle of the 2 weeks where I got really, really ill. We got COVID testing at the walk-in thing and it was negative. But I got really, really ill. My immune system crashed, hot and cold flushes, yada, yada, yada. And I still didn't know what was happening to me. And then the second doctor I rang, I lucked out. He was a great guy, absolutely great guy. I just rang the GP, hi, please sign me off work, not sleeping, confused, yeah, etc., etc. And he said, what's going on? And I spoke to him about the stresses that I'd had at work and related to him a couple of examples of the stresses that I had at work. There's a couple that stand out. I'll share one story with you. Back in February, I was in a meeting and we're all there, all the little line managers and then heads of departments and then they're heads of the heads, for example. And it's February, it's cold and we're in this thing and we're all reporting stuff. And in the middle of a sentence, I stopped speaking. It just... And the upper part of my brain is going, what the hell's going on? Say words, speak and stuff. And my boss was there, and my boss's boss was there, and my boss's boss's boss was there. Yeah. And I couldn't, and a colleague of mine had to finish off what I was saying. And after that, I went to break, and I sat in the car, and I couldn't get out of the car. I didn't eat, I didn't listen to anything, I didn't drink anything, I just sat there, catatonic. And of course, while this is going on, the upper part of the brain is freaking out, going, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you moving? Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you moving? Why don't you listen to some music? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Da, da, da. What's going on? And that spirals. And I just sat there for over an hour until my wife found me. There's probably people wondering where I was. She finally coaxed me out of the car, and I went to speak to my manager, and broke down in tears, not for the first time at work, and got sent home. And again, that day, the next day, I didn't leave the bed. I couldn't leave the bed. Basically, my body was shutting down, verbally and physically shutting down. That's one of the things I shared with the doctor. And so he did this checklist thing, and he said, are you, he kept asking me, are you depressed? And I kept saying, I don't know what depression is. I don't know what depression is. And he said, well, there's different types of depression. There's this, and there's also something that's they call major depressive disorder or clinical depression, when you've been in a certain state for a long period of time. And he did the thing, and he said, yeah, you've got major depression. I'm gonna prescribe some drugs and recommend that you see a psychiatrist. So currently, and then a month later, I took the drugs to see the psychiatrist, and then a month, he kept in contact with me. A couple of weeks later, rang up, a couple of weeks later, rang up, a couple of weeks later, rang up, and I kept asking him why he keep ringing up, and he said, you're a suicide risk. 10% of people with major depressive disorder kill themselves. Yeah. And he doubled my dose of medication, and I saw a number of different counsellors until I settled with the one that I'm still seeing, and actually spoke to her today. Seeing, it's all visual, it's all over the phone because of COVID-19. And she's a lovely Scottish lady. And yeah, all over the phone. And the drugs, by the way, they're not the happy drugs or the stoner drugs. The drugs, so what happens is, the doctor explained to me, is when you're exposed for a stress and anxiety for a long period of time, stress, your body releases hormones and it gets the adrenaline going to get you through the stress period, the fight, flight, that sort of thing. And so serotonin levels and dopamine levels get interrupted, and eventually, over a long period of time, your brain chemistry will change, and your serotonin levels, your dopamine levels will deplete, and you will become forgetful. You will become confused. My memory the last couple of years is rotten. The ability to plan, the ability to concentrate is, yeah, it takes me a long time to read through it took me a long time to read through the 9th edition book. I read it 3 times in a row before I made the video, the rules video, and I've made questionable. You can see sometimes, people have commented, are you drunk? Yeah, I'm worried about the longer term. Anyway, so the brain chemistry gets affected, which is why if you are at work right now or at home or wherever you are, and you're stressed and you're anxious, and you'll know you'll be stressed and anxious, not just a stress period and it goes away, because all of us get stressed every now and then, but I mean stressed for a period of time, and you're living off adrenaline, and sometimes you get the shakes, sometimes you get the palpitations or the heart hollowness in your chest or the weight in your chest. For me, it felt like a hole, a deep void, just this gap. If you're getting the stress and you need to do something about it. You need to talk to someone about it. If you are driving to work and you break out in a sweat, you need to talk to someone about it. That's not normal. I didn't know what was happening to me. Back in October, we went on holiday. And when I go on holiday, I am a prolific reader. I'll read more than a book in a day, typically a book a day, but sometimes more. And you can't keep me out of the sea as well. I'll go in for at least an hour or 2 hours, one side of lunchtime or the other side of lunchtime. And the first couple of occasions I did this, I could see her prowling up and down the shore thinking, is he safe? Is he still alive? Because I'll just keep snorkeling. I'll keep going on. I'll keep exploring. And I take stuff with me to feed the fishies and stuff. And I love it out there. And the last holiday we went to in October, I barely read and I didn't go in the sea once. And what happens is, if you don't talk to someone about that stress and anxiety that you're feeling, and it's continual, or if you don't do something about it, if you don't distance yourself from the stress factors, the anxiety factors that you're feeling, if you don't do something about it, then your brain chemistry will change. Under scans, the hippocampus itself shrinks, the stuff I know now, and you'll do long-term damage, which can heal, and the doctor says 6 to 18 months it will heal over time if you remove yourself from the stress factors. But you'll hurt yourself, and you won't know you're doing it unless you have a breakdown. Another way the brain can respond if you're exposed to stress and anxiety for a long period of time is PTSD. Another way it can respond is by having a mental breakdown. But I had one of them back when I was 26. And that took me about 2 years to recover from. And that was different from this. That was a crack. I felt that go in my brain, almost like a broken arm. And the me before and the me after was completely different. I didn't like the me before. I was in my 20s. The me before, not a lot of people did. I was an arsehole. And anyway, that's a different tale for a different time. But you can have a mental breakdown. You can slide slowly into depression. There's ways you can respond. Me, it was slow and slow and slow and slow and slow. And I didn't know what was happening to me. I thought I was getting senile. I thought it was signs of early onset dementia in October, in November, and December. I thought that this is it, that I'd only have a couple more years of being intelligent enough with my brain. And now I know what happened. And these drugs that I take aren't happy drugs or something. What they do is they stop the reabsorption of serotonin somewhere in my brain or body. I think it's mainly in your gut. But basically I'm producing very minimal amounts of it, and it stops the reabsorption in. And it's supposed to get your motivation back. That's one of the big things. When you're in depression, when you're depressed, everything's pointless. The serotonin, dopamine, these are the chemicals that make you move forward in the world, the reward systems, the chemicals that give you joy and and not. When they take it away from rats, the rats just curl up and die. They don't even eat, they just die. You need these things to make you do stuff like swim in the sea or read a book or and and so I couldn't move forward in the world. I just fell into patterned behavior. The behavior I had to do, the things that I had to do. Film 40k, keep going. Just checking the camera there, it blinked at me. So it got to the point where I wasn't moving forward except with patterned behavior, and then I wasn't addressing the underlying issue, work-related stress, and then my body started to shut down. And then colours faded, and sometimes I couldn't speak, and sometimes I couldn't move. And while all this was going on, there was an island called 40k. There was a part of my life, a part of my world, where religion and politics and money and the outside couldn't get to. And nothing, this thing that I could cling to, where these circuits in my brain, and I could go there and I could enjoy that. Or not, it didn't hurt me. I could go to this place and let everything else go, and still have no serotonin levels, but there was no pain there. Until I couldn't move anymore. So you need to talk to someone, and you need to address stress if it's continual, and if it affects your diet, or If it's affecting your sleep patterns, if you're getting up at weird hours or going to bed at weird hours, that's a classic one. Don't want to even... My sleep was... going to bed at 2 in the morning, waking up at 3, wide awake. Food. See, that's the one thing that I didn't tick the box on the depression thing, which is just stopping eating or not enjoying food. My wife is a fantastic cook. She's the best cook I've ever met. Sometimes it makes it, when you go out for a meal or something, you have a meal on holiday, even in a really fancy place, and it's just not as good as her cooking. So I kept eating because the food was lovely. So, guys, you've got to look after your mental health. If you don't look after your mental health, then there are long-term implications. And if you know someone who's suffering, if you know someone who's going through stress and anxiety, you see the shakes or you see the heart palpitations or they tell you about sleep or food, or if you see them have suddenly wild mood swings, then sit them down and try and have a chat with them and get them to ring a doctor, or get them to offload. And if it's someone you know and they're offloading, don't judge and don't give advice. Here's a good thing. Don't give advice, just ask questions and let them talk. Essentially, you're there to be a soundboard, a listening board, and you're there to speak or input 1 or 2% of the time. Don't try and fix them. Don't try and tell them what's what. Don't try and tell them to man up or woman up or get over it or whatever. Just because what they need is to get it out. So let them get it out. It's going to be, if you know someone with depression, then it's going to be the most thankless task in your life helping them, because you're going to get nothing back. Because they can't move forward and give anything. While all this was going on, I still had video content to make because I had paying customers for deploymentzone.tv. And I was lucky because I was off work and I spoke to the doctor and he gave me medication and he signed me off for a long period of time. And he took my case seriously and he recognized depression and he recognized what it was. And I still have video content to make. Now, making the video content, once I'm in the room with the camera on, a couple of things happen. One, I fall into pattern behavior, so I know what I'm doing. But the other thing that happens is, it's like swimming across a gap to an island. So there might not be huge heights because going up with the emotional register isn't there, but I didn't sink down. So once I'm in there filming, talking, engaging with people on a 40k level, everything was okay. Everything was good. Everything was okay. Except for the times when I fluffed lines or missed dice rolls or made more mistakes than usual or said inappropriate things. But because the judgment shot. But it was okay and it was good to do it. And so I kept doing it because it was good to do it. But making myself do it. Moving forward so that setting up a tape. It was so hard. I did a series on deploymentzone.tv at the end of 8th edition where I played myself. And that was in the heart of the personal depression because I couldn't play with anyone. No one else was around. So I played both sides. And I should have been making a lot more content, or could have been making a lot more content because I was off of work. But making any type of content was really, really hard, or initiating any type of content was really hard. Once I was doing it, fine. and editing it, fine. But motivating myself to go, okay, I've got this idea. Actually having an idea. Having an idea took hours or a day or 2 days. Setting up a table an hour or 2 days. Getting that idea and getting myself there to do it. It's so hard. Now I can play with people again. It's much easier because I know that at this time, at this day, someone's coming round, so I have to be set up, ready to go. And then they turn up and then everything else goes and I can get into 40k mode. And it's difficult to talk about enjoyment or pleasure or anything up, but at least everything bad goes and you just roll. So 2 months ago, 3 months ago, there were a number of occasions where I couldn't get out of bed and I couldn't speak. And just the brain function. A couple of months ago, there are a couple of occasions where I nearly killed myself. But I had a community and had a dream that maybe I could recover, go back to work, keep building, get to a point where we could do this full time. There was a light in the dark. So I got up in the morning. Work-related stress ruined me. And 40k saved my life. Because there was an island I could go to. A life raft I could cling on to. So I didn't plunge into the deep. And you've got to look after your mental health, guys. It'll drip, drip, drip away at you, the stress, or like a balloon with the air just slowly bleeding out. You've got to look after it because sooner or later it will change you. You think you're strong enough. You think you're man enough. You think you can keep going. And you can. When you're going through hell, keep going. Until you can't go anymore. Until you can't speak. So, as of today, about a year before we wanted to do this, because the finances, as of today, I've quit my job. I'm not exposing myself to that stress anymore. 40k has saved my life. I'm going to do this full time. Going to make video content full time. A year or two ago, if you'd have told me that, I would have been over the moon. There'd have been parties. We would have had a celebration. We'd have had an event. Now, I'm just trying to get through and trying to find a new mode of living. and trying to... I enjoy making content, but I used to be such a dynamo. And I still enjoy making content, but I need to pace it correctly for my health. I need to see some of my friends. I need to see some of my family. So I'm not taking a step back in content production. What I am doing is continuing content production at the current rate. But that time that I would have spent at work gives me time to be me and heal. And then, once I am better, I can put more in. I want to go to events. I want to see people. I want to make campaigns. I want to go for jogs and cycles. As of tomorrow, I'll make Warhammer 40k content for a living. This hobby saved my life. You have saved my life. I want to thank you so much. Because if I didn't have this, I'd be dead. If I didn't have something to lean on. If I didn't have something to hold on to. An island to swim to. If I didn't have this financial support, I'd be dead. Because I could see a way out. So, look after your mental health. Look after other people's mental health. Because you know what? You might end up living your dream, making 40k content for a living, and not able to enjoy it, and not able to put all your time into it, because the moving forward ain't there, and the planning and the concentration and the creative is suppressed. But if you look after yourself and eat right and exercise right and remove yourself from the stress triggers and do what they tell you, you can recover. There is a way back. So if you're a subscriber to the channel and have ever seen one advert of mine, you've helped, thank you. If you're a diplomatzone.tv supporter through Patreon, or thank you so much. You saved my life. Don't have imagination. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, my wife. Thank you. Everyone who's ever helped produce content or donated, thank you. You've saved a life. To those friends that I was playing Warzone with a couple of months ago and they're wondering why he was being a bit weird, now you know. To all those people I haven't answered the messages to or ignored, send them again. There was a reason why. To those people on YouTube saying he doesn't answer his comment section very much, no, I don't go there very much. I try to avoid it. I can only go there when I'm healthy, because the YouTube comment section can be a rough place for someone suffering clinical depression. And I'm probably not going to go there for this one. But hopefully in 6 months' time I'll be able to visit it more frequently. So 6 years of Winters SEO. This year has been a rough year. The next year will be so much better, because the things that because I get to play 40k full time. She's still working there. She has to keep working there. Liam's still working because, you know, I run Deployment Zone with Liam. Liam's still working at his job, but I can't do that anymore. I could get another job somewhere else. I should get another job somewhere else, but I need the free time to produce content, and also I need free time to heal. So if I had another job, it could only be part-time, and then, you know, time spent on that could be time either healing or making more videos. So I don't know how this video is going to turn out. I've been avoiding making this video for a very long time. I'm sure there's a chunk of other things I should be talking about right now, but it feels like that's a natural place to end it. Is it Steve O, the Orc guy? I saw your video too, man. I think it's Steve O. Damn, forget his name. I'll find it and I'll link it in the video below as well. You're a brave man, 40k Orc player. You're a brave man for coming forward and sharing us your problems as well. If you want to message me. I'll link your channel. If you want to play, I know you've got autoimmune issues, but if it's safe and you want to come here, then I'm happy to host. Yeah, guys, look after your mental health, and thank you for your support. Happy wargaming.